The morning of April 21st, 1918, high over the battlefields of the First World War. The dreaded red triplane appears out of the sun. At the controls is Baron Manfred von Richthofen. His quarry was an unknown Canadian pilot, Wilfred Wop May from Carberry, Manitoba, and he had only just got his wings. May wheeled out of von Richthofen's gun sights, and the tables were turned on the Red Baron. When the Great War ended 6 months later, Wop May had 13 kills to his credit and had acquired a taste for danger that never left him. In 1919, he and his brother Court opened the first air service out of Edmonton and became pioneers of that unique Canadian breed, the bush pilot. It was 10 years later, however, that Wop May became a part of Canadian folk history. The story began at Little Red River, 550 miles northwest of Edmonton. An epidemic of diphtheria had broken out over Christmas. 1 man had died. Dozens of children were in danger. The only hope was antitoxin serum, and that serum was in Edmonton. On New Year's Day, 1929, Wop May got the call. The only plane available, an old Avro Aviation, was not fit for the job. But May and a fellow bush pilot, Vic Horner, agreed to give it a try. The serum had to be kept warm, and it was 33 degrees below zero Fahrenheit. May and Horner wrapped the antitoxin around some charcoal burners, stored it at their feet, and took off into the morning sky. A new radio station had just opened at Edmonton. The announcer at CJCA sat at his microphone throughout the day. He was broadcasting special reports to the homesteaders along the route to alert them to keep an eye on the sky. The headwinds were ferocious. Visibility was virtually nil. They were flying over wilderness, and the plane could go down at any time. By nightfall, May and Horner were still 50 miles short of Peace River and could go no further. They put down on a frozen river near McClellan. Next morning, they took off for Peace River with only a few drops of fuel. The townsfolk, alerted by radio, desperately cleared away mountains of snow to create a landing strip. May coaxed the plane in, took on fuel, and told the radio station to notify Fort Vermilion that they were on their way. As he climbed into the cockpit, he faced an insurmountable railway bridge, but he took off between the piers and under the bridge. 200 miles to the north, a Dr. Hannah left the sick children and traveled by dog team to rendezvous with the little bush plane. Late that afternoon, May spotted Fort Vermilion and came in safely with the life-saving serum. Taking on inferior fuel at Fort Vermilion, May and Horner headed for home. With the engine repeatedly cutting out, they barely managed to kick the little plane into Peace River. The 2 pilots spent the day repairing the aircraft and then lifted off on the last treacherous leg to Edmonton. During the flight, every instrument on the aircraft, with the exception of the oil gauge, froze solid. Flying on instinct and nerve, they finally spotted Edmonton. The airfield had never looked like this before. The runway was engulfed by thousands of anxious people. Word of the epic flight had spread across the Canadian Northwest, and the crowds had broken through the police cordon. When they landed, they had 1 gallon of fuel. Wop May was presented with the McKee Trophy in 1929 for meritorious service to Canadian aviation. He continued flying into the 30s and worked with the RCAF during the war. In 1973, he was named a member of Canada's Aviation Hall of Fame.